is everybody doing? I hope you have your libations ready. Listen, hit the like button. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Please do all of the things that I asked you to do and get something to get you through what we're about to talk about. And I just want to let everybody know before we get started. Just a little, maybe you are new here. I don't know. But what I want you to do, I want you to just understand that, as a grown person, we're all adult people here. And as a grown person, let me slip over here and take care of this real quick. I need a little bit more light. There we go. As a grown person, that you are responsible for your temperament. This is something that Ed Reed did not understand fully, but this is something that everybody has to understand. So if you don't, there is no need to overreact. When we are grown people, we grew grown things. Children's things is for the children. This is for us. We are grown people. We have to have a way to behave as adults. Now, I want everybody just to start with that in mind. Now, this whole Ed Reed cataclysm, if that's what you want to call it. It was a catastrophe of sorts. And it was followed by, but I don't think, fam, honestly, if I'm having an honest conversation with everybody, and that's what I try to do. I try to have an honest conversation. I think that's what I do all the time. I think my honesty is what gets me in trouble. But if we're having an honest conversation, about my shiny head. If we're having an honest conversation, what I have to say, first of all, is this started with Deion Sanders. Let's just, before we get to what we got to get to, let's just talk about, I did a whole show on this on Patreon. Right? But I think, let me just make sure I got something set up right. I think we got to have some additional conversations. Right? So, this all started right here. This all started with Coach Prime. Right? Oh, because everything that Ed Reed did it was a way. He was trying to be Coach Prime. Like it was a, you know how some people see a formula for something and they say, I'm going to do that. I know what he was in football. I know he was a coach down here. Don't give me the man's bio. I already read his bio. But he was going, we have this formula. Mr. Reed didn't show up looking like this, but we have this formula for Negroes. We have this formula for black celebrity. We have this formula for people who are allowed to do things and behave a certain way. So Deion was able. He was able to be, let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation about it. Don't get upset. He and his girlfriend and the kids. See, Ed Reed didn't understand this. He didn't understand the formula, and he didn't have everything to have the formula. So Deion went down there with his. He was produced, and he wanted to be produced. This is a reality show, man. Let's talk about it before we get to all the way there. This is a reality show, man, and Ed thought he could be Deion. Deion Sanders has already had a reality show. I think that was with his ex-wife or something like that, right? He has already been one of the best football players. I remember when he was the foul. He's charismatic. He knew how to do this thing. He knew how to do this thing with his girlfriend. Now, I want to show you the formula that Deion used, and then we're going to go to the problem with the formula, and I'm going to tell you why the formula doesn't work for the collective, and then we're going to talk about why the formula didn't work for Ed Reed and how we got to let the formula go all the way around. We can have all of those conversations, can't we, today? Are we allowed to tell the truth today? So let's just talk about the formula. Tracy, that's his girlfriend, most recently executive produced the second season of Games People Play BET, a sexy stylized drama about the high stakes world of the NBA starring Karrueche Tran and Serena's whoever Jackson. The show finished its first season starring Lauren London as BET's #1 show. Other recent projects: The Postcard Killings, starring Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Famke. Child, who is these people? Famke Jensen and television producer Edmonds. Past projects include Deion's Family Playbook. Yes, child. Wait a minute, was you in there when the wife was in there? Was you producing this while he was married? I'm not going to get into it. It's not my business. Deion's Family Playbook on, and 3-time NAACP Image Award nominated television movie With the Ring. And y'all remember her from Soul Food, right? She went from Soul Food to it looks like reality TV. Now, I love the Soul Food show producer. So I'm not, but I'm saying that this was a production. What I'm trying to get everybody to understand is that this Deion Sanders thing, as we lead into the Ed Ring thing, it was a production. Let me tell you the ingredients. Well, if it was a production, what were the ingredients of the production? You talk so much. What were the ingredients? You can't tell me nothing. Well, Deion used, and these are the ways that people, these are the formula. Like if you want to spot people who are trying to take advantage, and it's a shame because they get confused with people who are actually good people. People who are trying to take advantage or leverage Negro capital use a few things. And these are a few things that Ed Reed didn't have and didn't use right. He did too much, too fast, too soon. And I'm going to tell you why black celebrity, for those you don't already know, is problematic. But Deion went in. How did Deion go in? He was produced by the girlfriend. We already talked about that. As Adolph's people, we love the family. Our family has been so torn apart that when people come in with their families and their young black men, ADOS men with their ADOS boys, and they pushing them, we love it because we don't have it and because everything has been torn apart for us. Right? We love it. Deion went in with all of that. So you got black family, you got Christianity, so you got the black church. Right? You got that. These are ingredients that Deion used. He was produced. This was a production. This was a Deion Sanders and Tracy Edmonds production. So he used, allegedly, hey, I don't have no insight. I'm just telling you what I have observed. So he used black family. He used Christianity. He invested time. Right? So if you look at Deion invested a lot of time. He was 2 years. Now he didn't fill out his contract. He didn't fulfill his contract. Right? But he invested time. He also did what Boyce Watkins' mentor, what was his name, Charles Wu, said. He said, if you're going to sell black people on something, you have to sell it as black people fighting the white man. You got to fight the man. You got to sell it that way. That's how you sell everything to Negroes. How did Deion Sanders sell this? He didn't sell this like he tried to talk about it as I didn't never tell nobody I was going to be here forever. We didn't expect you to be nowhere forever, Deion. We expect you to fulfill your contract, and we expect for you to do what you said. You say you're a man of God. I don't see it as me. But we expected you to come in there and do what you said you was going to do. You didn't say I was going to be here and help Jackson. You didn't say that. You said I'm going to come here and fix this. I'm going to come here and make HBCUs competitive with private white institutions. That's what you said. And then you left after 2 years. You left. You were using that as a platform to get to whiteness. You were auditioning for white people and using black people to get it. Ooh, ADOS people. Ain't that some shucky ducky quack quack? That's the formula though. Black family, black Christianity. That's the ADOS formula. Black family, black Christianity. Let me bring in. Let me. These are all the things. What I'm telling you is all the formulaic ways that people tug on the heartstrings of ADOS. We're gonna compete with the white man. All of these things are very formulaic things that are used to tug at the heartstrings of the stuff we got to tug at the heartstrings of. Right? I'm just giving you the foundation of what happened before Bethune-Cookman. I'm just giving you the foundation of what this was about. Right? This is just what it was. Now, we also heard, we love people who are, oh man, he gave all this money and built all this stuff. Y'all ought to be ashamed. Well, then you look at it and we don't know if that's true either. Right? I'm just giving you the like, because there was a line, we didn't even get over the Deion stuff, the Deion Sanders stuff before we start talking about Ed Reed. Well, let's look at the playbook. Ed Reed, he was trying to play with that playbook. Right, but you see, if you look at this article, that the JSU making changes to Walter Payton Center, the brother Eddie Payton calls it disrespectful. You see that this is 2019. Look at the date on that. Deion Sanders didn't come until 2020, so we need to see. Nobody asks for the accounting. We need a full accounting, Deion, of what you pay for. If you pay for all this stuff, show us the receipts, because when you look at this, you pull the heartstrings. I pulled out my own pocket. That's the heartstrings. Ooh, people get us by tugging on our little emotions, child. The revamped area, this is 2019, will include a weight room, a locker room, offices, a student lounge. The racquetball courts and other undesignated rooms are being removed. Eddie Payton is concerned the center will become more like an athletic facility. The university says current use by students and the public will not be compromised. Right? That's what they say. Now, let's go a little bit, because we saw Deion running around in here, didn't we? I'm just asking the questions that nobody wants to answer. Weight room, locker rooms, offices, meeting spaces, computer lab, reception area, assembly lounge. And there was an article about this, you know, at another there was another article about this too. Remember this article, this Recon article? See, because we go so fast and we so quick to believe celebrities. Whatever they say, if a celebrity said it, it got to be true. If a celebrity say he paid for it, I believe he paid for it. Why the claim that Deion Sanders donated half his salary to JSU is a prime lie. You gotta stick around and hear the whole story, not half the story. Now, like I said, if this is a lie, Deion, prove it. Prove all the receipts. Bring it all out. Bring it all out. We don't need to just run around with your chains and all that. Bring it all out, because I'm going to lead right into this to Mr. Ed Reed. We're going to go from one to another. Viral post on social media go a step further, detailing a laundry list of problems Prime had to deal with during his 3 seasons in Jackson, including claims he donated half his salary, or around $150,000, to finish renovating a facility for players because the school ran out of money, and another that Jackson reneged on a deal to pay Sanders a portion of home ticket sales, a key part of his compensation package. Now, let me tell you something. Let me start off by telling you something. I can understand. I totally understand if you're a coach that comes in off the street and you need to be paid. If you once had the biggest residence in the state of Texas, his house was the biggest in the state of Texas, I don't want you coming into an underfunded school and talking about how the tickets were supposed to pay your salary or whatever and it didn't pay. I don't want to hear nothing about that from one of the best cornerback or whatever. Well, I don't want to hear nothing about that from one of the best ever. Right, you can go anywhere. You can go to ESPN. Don't talk to me about ticket sales. Don't talk to me about I was supposed to get this much money from tickets and I called them and the money didn't make. No, I don't want to hear nothing about that from you. Y'all don't know how to tell celebrities when to shut up. If you don't like it, go somewhere. Because I know you using me anyway. And if you're going to use these Negroes, and Negroes, y'all got a problem, you come out when Deion get there. Now, I know I've been to HBCUs. For those of you who don't know, I'm a Howard University graduate. I'm a Bison. For those of you who are going to look at me and say, oh, she's Alabaster. She must have went to a white school. Shut up. Like, I know we have a lot of love in terms of our homecomings and all of that. I know all of that. I know that. But it's some of y'all that just came because Deion was there. That's why them ticket sales was up. Some of y'all just came up to see Prime and just came up to see Prime and his kids. A lot of y'all will go see Prime and his kids before you go see your own kids play somewhere. Well, I can't make it this week. I can't. Or before you go take care of your own kids' school. You don't care about the kids, you just care about Prime. That's why we talking about this thing right here. We talking about 2 football coaches. We ain't talking about an academic program. We ain't talking about funding. We ain't talking about holding administrators accountable. We ain't talking about none of that. We talking about Negroes who play football. And him coaching football. Like there's nothing more important to our community than football. So don't tell me how you care about education when you show up and start talking when it comes to football. We're going to talk about that too when we get to Bethune Cookman. It's a lot of stuff been going on at Bethune Cookman for a long time. And y'all say, well, y'all just want to talk about Prime and y'all want to talk about Ed Reed because y'all just don't want to hear the truth. We've been hearing the truth for a long time. We've been living the truth for a long time, those of us who went to HBCUs, and we can't get to y'all to care until some flashy Negro or some doggone Negro like Ed Reed comes and starts yelling and hollering and his contract ain't even signed. What kind of fool does that? They shouldn't have fired him. How many of y'all could keep your job? Could you keep your job if you let's say you got an offer from your job. You got an offer from a future job and the job says we going to go ahead with this. We think you are a good hire. We're going to go ahead with this because we think you are a good hire. That's what the job says to you. And then you go on Instagram Live and start trashing the job. What you think happened to your job then? You want better for an ex-football player, black celebrity, than you want for yourself. I can't want better for you than you want for yourself. You don't think enough of yourself. If that happened to you, if your best friend got that, they say we're gonna rescind the offer. If your best friend calls you and said, "Oh my goodness, they rescinded the offer," I don't know what happened. I went on Instagram Live and I trashed the company because when I got there, they had a lot of trash around, and I said, "I'm gonna clean this up." And I want to. You would say, "Fool, what was you doing?" You would say you got to be a fool if you went on Instagram Live trashing your own company before you even signed the paperwork. You was a whole stone cold fool. That's what you would say to your best friend, but then you'll support Ed Reed. And you will not understand what an egotistical, loudmouth, unhinged person he is. But let's go back to what Deion said. We ain't got to all the way that we getting ahead of ourselves. Deion said he paid for some stuff. Right? He paid and he didn't get everything that came with his packages. So let's go a bit to that, because there was some questions to that too. Nobody ever really got into it. Shout out to Reckon for at least writing about it, and Deion still needs to provide some kinds of receipts. Right? These claims are false, however. They say the GSU athletic facility was funded by the university and has been in the works since 2019. The university did not receive funding from Coach Deion Sanders. Coach Deion Sanders donated certain amenities he wanted for the facility. So things you wanted for yourself, things you needed for yourself, you donated. But you built this, and he brought all kinds of money. Y'all believe anything? A Jackson State spokesman told Reckon about the purported salary donation. The source of the false athletic facility donation can be traced back to a now viral video from July 22 when Sanders gave a tour of the Walter Payton Center to Constance Schwartz-Morini, the founder of Smack Entertainment, which represents Sanders. Now, so first of all, understand, he's being interviewed by somebody who represents him, who represents his entertainment company. Right? That person is trying to make him look good. They're not a reporter. He's not being interviewed by CBS or CNN. He's not being interviewed by anybody who has any kind of journalistic credibility. You have to understand that. Right? Just understand. The center is located in the heart of JSU's campus, inside a room that appeared to be under construction. He pointed out the future location of a bank, of televisions and PlayStations, barbershops, chairs, for which he made a plea to razor company Gillette to sponsor. Exasperated, Schwartz-Morini suggested the room is unfinished because the budget for the project is tapped out, and prodded Sanders to donate a quarter of his salary to finish the work before the start of the season, 2 weeks. Sanders upped the ante. I'll put more than that on it to get this done for these kids. I'll put half on it to get this done. Pointing to the camera, he asked, "If you don't believe me, check me. I will send you receipts." Where are the receipts? I would like to see the receipts. That's all. You just got to send me the receipts. He later reaffirmed the offer during SWAC Media Day in late July. I don't promise nothing I can't deliver, Sanders said during the event. Other rumors have also persisted. In the run-up to Celebration Bowl, in which Sanders will coach JSU for the last time, this is previously, against North Carolina Central, winners of the HBCU Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference Championship, rumors have also swirled that JSU failed to pay Sanders a portion of the tickets sale he's owed per his contract. Right? It's rumors all around me. Sanders would receive 10% of game sales for which in attendance 30. Child, this ain't even nothing. This ain't even nothing I would do. I wouldn't even have agreed to this. I wouldn't even have agreed to this. So what I'm saying, so we come, all this stuff said, oh, I did this, I did that. Nobody checks it. Nobody checks it. Nobody checks it and says, well, this is true. He said, nobody checks it and say this happened. Nobody checks it and say this didn't happen. Nobody says, let me see all the receipts where you paid so we can clear this up once and for all. Like, let me just see everything so we can get all this on the books and we can clear this up once and for all. Where is the money? If this is what you did, you got to verify. I don't trust nobody. Let me verify this information. Nobody could also verify when you talk about Jackson State. The daughter came on after the son was very magnanimous and he was very well spoken and said he had a great time at Jackson and he loved it and he did a great press conference. The daughter comes on recently and says it was murders all the time. That also was not true. Somebody looked up the murder statistics. I'm not going to go into that. I brought them, but I'm not going to go into that. You can go in that yourself. You can go into that yourself. You go into Deion, and Deion was all about making his way to listen, the first white offer he got, he took. He wasn't there to fight the white man. He was there to get a job with the white man. You were not there to fight. I'm going to be over here and I'm going to fight. I'm going to be over here. Right? And I tell you what. I'm going to be over here and I'm going to fight. I'm going to make, this man said, let me show you how produced this is. This man said, I'm going to make HBCUs competitive with PWIs. What he didn't say is actually, I'm here competing for a job with the PWI. And just because you're a good player don't necessarily make you a good coach. So Jackson was the only, and Jackson has a good story, a good history in football. They were the only school to give him a shot. And the first white man came calling. That's what people call ADOS empowerment. ADOS empowerment is if the first white man come calling, I'm taking the job. And like I said the last time during the Patreon episode, everybody can't have it both ways. You cannot have it both ways. You cannot say on one hand I'm gonna fight for my people, and on the other hand I'm gonna take whatever white money comes my way, and I'm gonna leave my people. You gotta choose. Either you want to build ADOS institutions, which they call black institutions. Either you want to build black institutions, or you want to take white money all the time. You can't do both all the time. That cannot be your thing. Even if you take white money, you got to tell them this money is to build black institutions. I'm going to send it right back to Jackson. You understand that, don't you? Be on the same page. You cannot want to, everybody say, I will go get the bag too. Well, you can't be running for the white bag and saying you're going to build black power or black institutions. Just get somewhere, sit down and be quiet and stand in the corner. Because chasing the bag and building institutions and sacrificing for your people is not the same thing. Deion played you. And so Ed Reed thought he could play you too. Why wouldn't he? I don't understand why y'all thought he wouldn't think that. Why do y'all think that Ed Reed wouldn't think he could play? I could play the same game. He came in, but you know what the problem was with Ed Reed? He came in hot. He came in hot as fish grease. Bro, why you coming in so hot? Why you coming in hollering and screaming? Why you coming in with your mouth all open and yelling at people? Why you coming in like this? Well, I tell you why he came in like this, though. It was way too soon. But we don't have no problem at all with somebody shaming us. Oh, if you want to shame us, you can shame us. Yeah, we should pick up the trash or whatever. Let me tell you, I would have, because I know the criticism. I have made these criticisms of HBCUs, right? In terms of management, but they also don't have the funding. I have to ask the question for all the people, for all you knuckleheads who have been talking trash and yeah, y'all just don't like it and you don't like that he's telling the truth. What were y'all when this happened? If you see at the top, this is the Biden administration set aside $2.7 billion for historically black colleges. I did a show on it. But then gave Hispanic serving institutions $11 billion and Asian his institutions $5 billion, and I said it was too low. And all of you Negroes who were talking about why y'all act like y'all don't have no money for the trash, and why you don't have money for this, and what you mean they ain't got no money, and da da da. Where are you? Where are you when it's time for to do the advocacy? How come you only pay attention when loudmouth people come hollering and screaming? How come it takes a black celebrity to get your attention on something you should be paying attention? Your child could come home from school and you won't pay no attention to them. And if they say, well, the dorms ain't right, well, baby, just you got to do it. You got to just do the best you can. Well, mama, daddy, everything ain't right. And I think something ought to be done about it. Well, I think they doing the best they can. You know, you gotta be a man. Yeah, you say all that. But when Ed Reed come, oh, Lord, let a Negro celebrity show up. Now, understand something about Negro celebrities and all celebrities. They are trained. They have lived a life. And more so probably with football, but they have lived a life where they throw things away. They have lived a life where people are expendable. I don't care whether it's girlfriends, managers, people are very expendable in celebrity. So Deion knew what he was doing. He was being produced and he enjoyed the production. Ed Reed knew what he was doing, except he did it wrong. He thought he was Deion and he wasn't, and he played his hand a little bit too soon, and he still had a bunch of supporters. Understand what Ed Reed is doing is also damaging to our Negro colleges. Especially Bethune-Cookman, because Bethune-Cookman has to go out and recruit. At the end of the day, they got to get kids to say, I'm going to your school. I'm not going to the state school. I'm going to your school. I'm not going to go to another HBCU. I'm going here. What Ed Reed did is give it an awful advertisement across the nation for people who have to recruit to HBCUs and Bethune-Cookman. You just gave an awful advertisement because you wanted to go and behave as a child as opposed to a man. Listen. If Ed Reed had got in there and worked, if he had got in there and he said, I did all I could. I've been in there working, and these people is misusing funds. They doing all kind of stuff. I would have some respect. Listen, the man got in there and tried. He tried to work that thing from the inside, and them people, they gave Ed Reed his butt to kiss or whatever. I would have had some sympathy. The man tried to work with y'all. He tried to talk to y'all. You get in there, you go on Instagram live before you even got the contract signed. How long does it take y'all to turn on somebody? I wouldn't trust Ed Reed as far as I could throw him. How long does it take you to, if you turn on the school that fast, how long it take you to turn on me? You hadn't even signed the contract. So of course, if you talk bad about me before the contract is signed, Lord, I don't know what you're going to do when I get you in here. When I get you in here and I actually got you under contract, what you going to do then? Why in the world would I risk it? You seem like a man who is unstable. And then people say, well, Yvette, was he right or was he wrong about Bethune-Cookman? Well, I would tell you in 2018, Bethune-Cookman board members resigned. Right? So ain't none of this new. It's only new to people who have not been paying attention. It's only new to people who only start following information at HBCUs when a black celebrity that they watched on the TV on the Sunday shows up. Four members of the Bethune-Cookman University Board of Trustees resigned last week, this 2018, following a Tuesday letter from Robert Delancey, president of the Bethune-Cookman National Alumni Association, that faulted the board for being unable to protect the school's finances and called for members' resignations. The Daytona Beach News Journal reported. Now, if you had done your homework, Ed Reed, you would know, okay, how many of those people are left? What's going on? Do your homework. Do your homework. Do your homework about your employer. We all knew. This ain't the first time the students have been outside. How come y'all wasn't outside with the HBCU students at Bethune-Cookman or whatever when they were protesting last time about stuff? How come I didn't hear all this hollering and screaming on the internet from grown people, especially grown men? And let me tell you, we're going to talk about y'all a little bit too. Because y'all are part of the reason some of y'all make other brothers look crazy. I see why other brothers look crazy. Some of y'all who will go online and go ham because of somebody's twerking. I don't think anybody should be twerking at an institution. What you doing? I disagree too. But this man can behave as a child. And he was telling the truth. And all football players yell. It's about the context, dear. He ain't out on the field. He ain't yelling at get the ball, make the play, get the first down. That ain't what he doing. That's not what he doing. He doing that before he got the job. And then the man went on Roland Martin. Did y'all see that? Let me see if I got. Then the man went on Roland Martin and looked like he was about to fall apart. And somebody asked the question, does Ed Reed seem to have the temperament of a head coach to you? No. He seems to have the temperament of someone that is in need of some kind of therapy, if it's not some other kind of CTE issue. He could not maintain himself. His attorney had to grab his shoulder and rub his shoulder or rubbing your deltoid to get you back right. This is not okay. Part of being an adult person, part of being a grown person is self-control. If you want to be a leader of people, if you want to be a leader of men or women or both, especially young men, young women, or both, you have to be able to contain and restrain your emotions. This man seems incapable of doing that. That's what I saw. I saw a person, they say, I don't know, allegedly, they say he broke the windshield of something, of a golf cart or something like that. I do not know, but I know that everybody got this wrong. Right? Ed Reed came in. He came in. Listen, Deion played the long con. He played the long game and the long con. He knows how to play that game. He knows how to get in front of the camera. Right before he left, he was doing an ESPN thing, and he had all the Jackson State people out there saying, if I ain't swag, who swag? He knew he was already going to be talking to people in the negotiations. He knew that. He still had a bunch of Negroes out there giving him the cachet to show the ESPN reporters that, listen, I am loved in this community. I am a celebrity. And you know how we do it as ADOS. We make everything hot. And with people, with old celebrities, we can reheat you. You ain't gotta go out and make a play no more. You ain't gotta make an interception no more, Deion. We'll reheat you. We like to microwave. And so that's what we did, and reheated him enough and let everybody know he has enough celebrity that we're gonna get some players in Colorado. Or we think we do. We had a losing season. What do we have? What do we have to lose by bringing Deion on? Deion got the heck on and said, I ain't really promise y'all I'm gonna be here all y'all life. I'm gone. Don't keep talking to me, and don't talk about my kids. Well, you tell you, well, don't talk about my kids. Don't talk about I'm serious about my kids. Child, don't nobody care. When you put them kids on reality TV and this other reality TV at Jackson State, you made your kids little celebrities, so they get to be talked about. Go somewhere and sit down. What would Jesus do, Deion? Don't be a Christian sometime, baby. Be a Christian all the time. What would Jesus do? He wouldn't tell nobody they serious. Sound like a little veiled threat. Ain't nothing you can do. Your daughter got out there and said be crimes happening all the time, and it wasn't no crime. And she just told her it looked like a lie. From what I saw with the crime statistics, what you gonna do, baby? You gonna barbecue a mildew? Don't nobody care. Don't nobody care how serious you are. You want your kids to have all the attention. You want them to have everything they need and get all the celebrity, but you don't want nobody to say nothing about them. That's not the way it works. That's not the way it works. Ooh, that's not the way it works. Let me tell y'all, I don't think people understand. You know, and I have a question for everybody. How much money is enough? Like when I keep hearing people and let me go back to Deion, but I know I'm jumping around. Let me go back to Deion for a second. I kept hearing people say I would take the money too. Like if I was Deion, I'd take the money too. I would take the money and run. Well, my question is, how much money is enough money? Like, how much money is enough money for you to say, you know what, I've got enough money in my life. I've been a star. I can do anything. I'm going to now give back. Is there ever a time where it's enough money in this life? I'm just asking. Because it seems like it doesn't matter how much money somebody has made in their life. When a big bag comes, and you know who has that big bag is never going to come from us because we're a wealthless group. That's why reparations is the key. That money's never going to come from us. If you say get the bag regardless of what, that bag is always going to be coming from somebody white. So you're always going to, if you live by get the bag culture, you're living by a culture that says leave your community the minute they come calling with a bag. Now, you can't build community that way. You can't build ADOS institutions that way. That's not the way it works. And that's why we can't depend on any kind of celebrity to build an institution. Everybody ran when Deion come. Now, somebody could come there with the best expertise in the world and say, I'm going to fix this and I need some help, and y'all wouldn't show up. And I don't mean ADOS in the chat who watches. I mean most of y'all wouldn't show up. You wouldn't show up. Negroes would not show up. But the minute a celebrity come there and start dancing, I ain't sweat, who sweat? And clap real hard and wear a gold chain around his neck, there you come. And I tell you, you didn't have a lot of things that Deion had. You had the smarts to kind of weight yourself. You didn't have that family. You didn't have that. And you didn't have enough hair dye. You ain't got enough hair dye. You ain't got enough hair dye as Deion to be playing like Deion. Now you're gonna have to get you some Just for Men and make them things black and just like try to make yourself look 35 like if you want to do some Deion stuff. Because Deion, listen, it's a lot of stuff you missed because you don't have a producer girlfriend to produce you and do that kind of stuff and give you funny moments and stuff. Nobody saw any of that from you. You're not being produced. Listen, I'm just telling y'all. I'm just telling everybody what it is. Everybody don't like the truth. Like even some of this stuff, like when you look back at it, and some people have tweeted about this, and I think when you look back at it, you wonder about when I say it's produced, you wonder. So you see this whole thing where Deion Sanders said somebody stole all his jewelry. Then somebody said, I don't know if it's true, tell me. Somebody said that the jewelry was returned or whatever, was put in a different lockup, but by the time that happened, everybody accused him of stealing. Then there was the boombox incident. Boombox stole from Deion Sanders after the boombox stolen from Deion Sanders' vehicle returned after public plea. So wait a minute, the boombox got returned? Like thieves is giving back stuff? Like I'm just saying, thieves is returning stuff because you Deion Sanders. Now that's very good for TV. It just looks suspicious. I don't know what. It just looks suspicious. I'm just saying. After a public plea for assistance, Jackson State University's head coach Deion Sanders after Coach Deion Sanders had a stolen boombox return. He had the boombox returned Tuesday morning when this happened, right? In a video posted on Instagram Tuesday afternoon, Sanders showed off the radio along with a note left outside one of the campus entrance gates. And so the thief left a note too. He sent it back and he left a note. Right? They say they didn't know, but I ain't tripping over no bread. Woo! The note reads, just please bring back hope to Jackson. A winning season would be great. And apparently the thief left their phone number, I heard. Right? So the thief did a lot of unthievery things. Like, it said, so this was allegedly the thief's note. He returned it, and he said, listen, I'm going to give you this boombox back. All I want is a winning season. It just, I don't know. It just seems produced. That's all I'm saying. Right? Sanders said, here we go. It ain't finished. Sanders said he would like to meet. He would have liked to meet the individual, but it was not clear if he would reach out to them. Of course he ain't reaching out to nobody. You're going to reach out to yourself. No, I'm just playing. I don't know what happened. He said the person who returned the boombox included their phone number in the return. Ooh. Sanders posted to social media on Monday that someone had broken out a window on the truck and taken the radio. Blah 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 blah. He said it was sentimental. It was something that was given to him. I'm just saying. I just don't feel like enough questions were ever asked. The coach said he's happy the community worked to get his property back and that it was proof the city could work towards making itself a better place to live. Jackson, Mississippi, I just want to tell y'all, this is what he said at the time, tell y'all, man, he said, I love you, I appreciate you, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you, brother. I'm proud of you. I love you, I appreciate you, I'm proud of you. And the thing I admire most is how we all came together. Ain't that something? Ain't that something? He said, we all came together. He said, it's wonderful. I mean, and it almost like in his muddy voice. It's wonderful. Right? Oh, gosh. I just, I don't get it. I don't know what's going on, and I do not understand it. I do not understand it. There's a lot of stuff that happened that nobody asked any questions. Now nobody would believe me if I said half the stuff that was said. But when black celebrity come in and say it, it's well, Yvette, I don't know why you would. I don't even know. Deion would never. What? Y'all have made it okay to kind of just use Negroes to catapult yourself to wherever you want to catapult yourself to. You're gonna rage out against your future employer. That's okay. It's a lot of stuff that I didn't think was okay that is apparently okay. Right? Like, we have allowed people to think they're special as opposed to like the collective is special. Like you're special as a person. Right? And if you came of age believing that and thinking that way, I see how you would still feel that way. And I see how you would hold stuff hostage. It's just a really bad and emotional look for Ed Reed to keep continuing the way he's continuing. It is extremely emotional and childlike, this sort of ranting he went on and all this bad talk and the students and all that kind of stuff. And I'll get to the students protesting in 1 second, but let me say this. This was up as well. Hall of Famer Edgar and James reveals that Ed Reed had billionaires set to invest in Bethune-Cookman's football and build new facilities. That's what they said. He said basically like you lost out. He had the billionaires up. The billionaires was gonna hook you up, but y'all messed up. Right? Here's my question though. If you were gonna have billionaires invest in Bethune-Cookman, couldn't they still invest? I mean, if what you want is to do right by the school, couldn't they still do it? Let's say you don't. I mean, because what really matters most, the school or you? Okay, let's say you don't want to do it there no more. There are a bunch of HBCUs. If you still want billionaires to invest, could you? If I believe you got that kind of clout, I'm not saying you have a billionaire friend. Some of y'all mistake your associates for friends, but I'm not one to teach you that. But if you have somebody set to invest, I'm just gonna take you at your word. I think it's capped, but I'm gonna take you at your word. If you have somebody set to invest, you can still do it. There are a bunch of HBCUs you can take that money to. So if you don't take that money nowhere, if you don't take tens of millions of dollars, because that's what billionaires have to spare. We're not talking hundreds of thousands or single digit millions. Billionaires have multi-millions to spare. So if you don't take that money somewhere else, I'm going to think either you're selfish or you're lying. If that money that you say that you got set up and he got billionaires set to give and through Cookman acted up. Okay, if you really believe in this, and it's not about you, and it's not about your ego. If this is really about what you're trying to do at HBCUs and you want to improve HBCUs, it seems to me, this is just me, it seems to me that you would still have these folks donate. Wouldn't you? I mean, if it's about the love and it's about the collective and all that stuff, okay. Even if you just have a bad taste about Bethune-Cookman, they don't do right about it. Okay, let's find another school that does. If you just want to give back, let's find another school that does. I don't know if another school will have you as a coach, because nobody wants to risk all of that bad press. Nobody wants to hire somebody who's going to give them bad press because they get frustrated. You're supposed to manage frustration. But a lot of these people who are black celebrities, they're egotistical. They've always been the person in the room that everybody pays attention to. Like when you bring in this person, I don't know what you expect to happen. Right? This is the same person. I tend not to believe that people change without some kind of drastic thing happen to them. Right? I tend to be the same kid. I may have changed my beliefs about certain things, but I'm the same girl I was in the first grade. I got the same heart, everything. I'm the same kid. Right? Got the same love, everything. Now I know more. I have more knowledge. I've never been that person. Deion's the same person. He's the same person. That person, these celebrities are always going to put their egos first. They have lived in a place. So I don't believe he's going to find somewhere else to give billionaires money. That money was tied to him. But they have lived a life where whatever room they walk in, everybody runs to them. So that becomes a drug. Deion could never just go somewhere and sit down. It's not just because, he's competitive. No, he needs that attention now. He's like, you got to think about what it takes to be him. He's been the best, like, since high school, probably before high school. Like, when you always have everybody coming to you and catering to you, that level of attention becomes a drug. And that level of attention is often very toxic when you're trying to build inside of a group. Because a group requires a hierarchy, right? It absolutely requires it, like an army, but it requires people to work together and understand that no man or woman is ahead of the group. And the people who are least capable of that are black celebrities. They just don't have it in them. They just don't have it. They always want to be the center. Like, they can't ever just say, I'm going to take a back seat. Most of the time, I'm not saying you don't find an outlier. You know, it's never all. But most of the time, they can't take a back seat and let somebody else drive the car. Or say, hey, I'm gonna support from now on. I'm gonna be in a position to support, as opposed to, like, they can't ever say enough is enough. They can never say I've had enough attention for a lifetime. So Deion had the football, and since he was a great athlete, and he did baseball, and he's been on TV, you know, in terms of like commentating, and he's been on reality TV, and he's a coach, and even the way he's always been flashy and all that, he's never gonna get that up, right? Ed Reed's always gonna just feel like he can go into the middle of a room and just start shouting, and everybody should turn to him and be like, he finna drop some gems, y'all. Wait a minute. He feels that way. It's hard to build with someone who feels that way, and sadly, Bethune-Cookman had to learn the hard way. That's what they had to learn the hard way. That's just the way it is. And I saw other people from other schools basically saying we dodged a bullet. That he didn't come here because we could have been the ones getting trashed. Because this man can't control his impulses. And he's never been trained to do that. He's been trained to when he got on the field, he could take those impulses out on other people. Right? And when you yelling, yeah, we're going to get that, that stuff works on a football field. You don't know how to transition. Or you transition to another job, but you feel like these are Negroes. Because the one thing Negroes love more than anything else is a Negro shouting at another Negro. Ooh, we got to do better. That's our favorite thing. We got to do better. Well, you know, a lot of us have been saying that for quite some time. And there are a lot of experts who have been saying that too, who know a whole lot more than Ed Reed. Now, somebody asked me, well, Yvette, you know, the students are protesting. So what do you feel about students protesting? Bethune-Cookman students are calling for Board of Trustees removal. They say the campus facilities have many issues the school isn't addressing. Ed Reed spoke out and contract negotiations broke down. Well, the contract negotiations were breaking down at the moment he went out with that golf court and started talking about trash. The moment he took all of his complaints public on Instagram, everything went left. I just hope from now on, if people hire people, and when you're in contract negotiations, I just hope from now on you all put those people under a non-disclosure agreement as a prerequisite for contract negotiations. Because these people, I don't think you should do the celebrity stuff no more. But these people are wild. But these students have been telling their truth, and nobody cared. And the thing is, here's the thing I'll say. I support students protesting. I just don't support them protesting to bring Ed Reed back. Because Ed Reed is not the problem, nor is he the solution. Right? In the sense, he's his own problem. But he is not the problem in terms of, the problem is that isn't that your school didn't hire Ed Reed. The problem is that your school has issues that they haven't addressed. That's why those Board of Trustees left in 2018. You may have some mismanagement of funds at your school, which means your administrators are not accountable. So you have problems with your buildings, which means the administrator is not accountable, and you are not getting enough funding. Right? Two things could be taking place. I will have to know more, but we will still come back to this. We will still come back to, if you want those people to get more funding and those schools to get more funding, you have to pay more attention when the government's giving out money. You can't just come when a celebrity starts to rant. Now, what I would tell those kids, I support students. I support students protesting because I think the world needs good organizers. I think the world needs good activists. I think ADOS needs good activists more than the world does. So I support that 100%. But you are not protesting Ed Reed. Do not allow yourself to become a pawn of any black celebrity. You are supporting yourselves, and you are protesting for what you need at your school or your university. That's what you're protesting for. And if I were president of that school, I would bring those kids into a room and say, okay, I need you to put Ed Reed in the past. This is not about him no more. He's gone. That's non-negotiable. What we can negotiate, I want you to tell me what you need, right? What we can afford to do, we will do. We will put it all on a timeline and give it deadlines. And what we cannot afford to do, we will all get busy getting money in terms of fundraising and getting involved in terms of getting the government to give more money to HBCUs, at least matching what they give Hispanic serving institutions. This is a political thing, and I want you all to go and get signed up with the ADOS movement, the ADOS Foundation. Join ADOS.com. Wink, wink. This has to be political, people. This is political. Money is always political. And don't tell me you don't want a handout. Everybody gets a handout. They go to DC, get it in, and don't nobody say nothing except us. And you got to show up for that. You got to show up for the kids. You can't just be showing up for Ed Reed. You got to show up for the kids. And people who don't show up for the kids, we got to support them. Right? We got to support them. We got to support the students. We don't have to support Ed Reed. Deion, they got enough money. And if they don't, they should. This is about supporting the students. And this is about paying attention to everything that happens at HBCUs, from the mismanagement of funds to the lack of funds to the everything that happens. You can't just pay attention to something when a black celebrity shows up and tells you that they've been done wrong. So my advice, and what I would tell Ed Reed, is that you know Deion Sanders. You can't pull off that kind of con. You're not produced enough. Now what you can do is fix your heart and get yourself a little bit of therapy and come back and try it again at another school, right? If you really mean what you say. What you can do is do philanthropy, right, for HBCUs and try to do it that way. In life, there's usually, unless you die, there's a second act. And you can do the second act. And whether or not you're willing to do a second act somewhere at another HBCU will really let me know whether or not you're a grown man, whether or not you're really, truly going to go and do your inventory of yourself and fix yourself and come back as a different person and try to do it again. And I don't know if football coaching is your capacity, but you'll try to do it again another way. We'll see. Time will tell. But that's just my 2 cents. Anyway, fam, that is it for me. Give me a couple minutes. I'll set up the phones in case anybody wants to have the conversation. Have the conversation, y'all, and I'll be right back, fam, and we can talk about it. been a little sketchy just a moment ago, so that's what took me so long. So if you get dropped, child, don't blame me. I'm going to my first caller. I am going now to 913. 913, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, this is Damien calling out of New York.
Hey, David.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good.
One thing that you said about how much money do you need, my theory or belief is that all these people is broke. They don't have any money. I know people with money. People with money, after they're done with their career, they don't go back to work. Usually, you see school teachers, when they retire, they go to Walmart to go back to work. Everything, when somebody got money. When people don't have money, they ask you for money. They sell you things. I think it was maybe a few weeks ago you seen what happened with Master P and his son. Mm-hmm. He told you it was all a fraud. The whole thing. And he was supposed to be this poster child of wealth and hip-hop and all that sort of stuff.
Well, let me say this too, fam. Let me say this too, just, and I don't want you to forget your thought. But also about the Master P thing, one thing that was disappointing was that everybody got on the son and was like, well, he gave you all this, he gave you opportunity. And it's just like, no, it was all not true. And I'm watching him talk about the suicide. I think it was Twitch. And he was like, I'm watching him talk about this man's suicide. Well, he didn't care about, like, when that happened in his own family. He doesn't talk to people. And there was a lot in there, and people were like, oh man, he did all that for you. And what he was telling people is that no, he didn't. Like, it's not what it seems. But go on, fam. I'll let you go on ahead.
No, but there was something else that I seen. It just came up on the timeline about TLC, and they were breaking down how much money they made, breaking down points. And, the average person who's not in the music industry doesn't understand that. Mm-hmm. And what I always tell people when you hear about people's contracts, did you see the contract? Mm-hmm. Do you understand the terms of the contract? Mm. Are you a lawyer? Do you have any sort of education in this field? Do you know anything that you're talking about, or are you just taking what people give you? Mm. Because we talk about propaganda and PR all the time. And that's essentially what that is. You look rich to do propaganda. That's all it is. These people are trying to project, and the people who defend them see themselves in those people. So you attack these people, these celebrities, they feel like you're attacking them personally, because that's the only hope they got. Because if Deion or Jay-Z or whomever, Master P, can't make it, what chance do I got? I can't rap, I can't dance, I ain't never scored a touchdown in my life. I might have played JV in 10th grade, but that's the best I got. Mm. It's right there in front of you if you just look. Rich people don't ask people for money. When Master P go everywhere, anywhere, he got something in his hand trying to sell you something.
Child,
have you ever seen anybody in a female throwback jersey?
Child, he had pancakes, waffles, and gummy bears, and what? He was all, and I agree with that.
You didn't hear that?
And I agree with that with him. But let me ask this about Deion. I think that Deion could do some in ESPN stuff, right? Even if he was out of money, right? My question with him, though, is that's why, and you could absolutely be right, because you've been right in a lot of ways about this, in terms of, like, a lot of people, when they don't have money, they make it look like money, because Deion lived real big. If you got the biggest mansion in Texas for a while, you might have just lived too big, and you might have been out of money for a long time because you come out of it. But let's just say he has money. Let's just say Deion has money. If he does have some money, then this becomes a maturity issue, right? Because one of the things that I talk about is that when you're older, you're supposed to find different things to make you happy, right? When you're young, there's a lot of stuff you can do when you're young. Your physicality makes you happy, right? You're in your prime. A lot of stuff makes you happy, that when you grow older, you should start having hobbies. You should, like, start going fishing or something, or whatever your thing is. Maybe you like to paint or whatever. I feel like with a lot of our celebrities, there's an inability to mature into, like, middle age, and then the transition, the next transition is to become an elder, right? Like, and then to become an ancestor. There's like a resistance to that. You still want to be the cool guy, right? You still want to wear 4-5 or a huge gold chain. You don't ever want to, like, you make sure you dye every hair, right, on your head, right? With Deion, we don't, he'll let the beard get a little bit gray, but, like, he get back at it, next thing you know, shaved off. My thing is, I wonder if, with some people, with most people, I do believe it's money. And it might be money with Deion. My other question, though, is is with some people who did much better than most football players. Is this a question of not being able to mature and understand that like the limelight doesn't belong to you anymore? Let the young people come and have their limelight. Like it might not be yours. And so if you want to get a coaching job, you got to get it through just you got to get it however people get coaching jobs. You can't use other black people to get something that you really don't need. You've had enough limelight anyway. Go ahead, fam. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so the reason why I know it's money, one, it's always money. Two, we know about the NFL. We know about concussions. So you got your sons out there risking their brains, their lives, their futures. For what? For money. Because that's the same thing you did. That's the whole point. If you had money, they'd be doctors, lawyers, or whatever the case may be, even entertainers, musicians, whatever. But you wouldn't have them risking their body. You didn't see Deion got 8 toes. He can't walk.
Child, that leg look like it's gonna go
put
too.
Your kids out there. For what? Because of money. I mean, to me, it's right there in front of you.
Well, let me push back. I think this is a good conversation. Let me push back just a little bit. So we know careers are passed down, right? So what if Deion is doing this? Because he's just saying, listen, I can teach you how to do this and excel. I don't know nothing else. I don't know nothing else but football and baseball, and I know football better than that. I was a star athlete. I wouldn't take nothing away from Deion until he was a bona fide star. What if he's saying is just only thing I know how to teach you as my son is how to be a star and how to be a star football player, and that's what I'm gonna do. Since careers are passed down, parents normally teach their kids what they know, and the only thing Deion knows is how to be a star football player. What would you say to that?
I'd say I heard an interview with Brandon Marshall, and they asked him if he was let his child play football. He said, no way. I can pay somebody to teach you something that I can't teach you. Easily. One of the things about being wealthy and rich is that you have access.
Yep.
Or at least you're supposed to. So you're supposed to, like you say, social capital.
True.
Who you know. I can get my son on the coaching staff. That's what happened with the Rams coach.
Yeah, true.
He ain't scored no touchdown. He ain't got no CTE. He went straight from his dad to the NFL. Ain't scored not one touchdown ever in his life. Just like that. So, I don't know. It seemed like Deion already told you. He told you from day one, it must be the money. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I agree with that. They say when somebody tell you who they are, you should listen.
You gotta believe them.
Told us.
They say when somebody tells you who they are, you gotta believe them. So you might be right, fam. You might be right. He might have told us who he was. I was just offering pushback. So anything else you want to say?
Show me your bank account. Show me your asset sheet. Show me all that, and then we can talk about what you got. Because right now you can tell me anything. And you know what they say? Believe half of what you see and none of what you hear.
Ooh, yeah, that's true, fam. You owe one. You owe one. You. Well, thank you, fam. You made some good points.
Yeah, no problem.
I appreciate you. I offered a little pushback. Well, it's some things in there. It's some. Anyway, I'm going to my next call. I am going to 314. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Will, St. Louis.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. How you doing?
Pretty good.
This is an excellent show tonight, and I like the way you did it. It's like you was talking just directly to Adolph, and we needed everything you said because we in our hearts know it's true. But a thing that I wanted to share is that this whole HBCU situation, I didn't go to HBCUs. I had a sister that went to one. I got classmates that went to HBCU. But I want to say that HBCUs, since Deion, has really come into the mainstream. Now, it was already kind of in the mainstream, but Deion, put it there permanently. Because you remember when Spike Lee made his movie, School Days, it was almost like that movie was made for us.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had a lot of white friends, ain't never heard of School Days. But then old boy made their drum line, and then they made the other thing, that other kid that did the stepping and all that, and then HBCU came into the U.S. mainstream. In a way, and I would like to, I would like to hear your take on. I know you probably can't give a whole presentation tonight, but HBCUs alone, their very existence. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Justifies everything that you've been saying. Because the question is, why do they exist? See, when you ask that question, now you can go back to Adolf's history. You have to go back to Adolf's history. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So in a lot of ways, because now, like you said, underfunded. Why are they underfunded? So now you're going back to why do they exist? Jim Crow, why they underfunded, wealthless group, And the interesting thing about that interview that Roland Martin did with the interim president of Bethune Cookman, when he talked about how giving went from 12% to 1%. And you know what that president said? That president said the economy changed. He said that basically he was talking about the baby boomers, like you always said, actually doing better than Generation X. Because they got pensions, they some of them, they may not be wealthy comparable to the dominant culture, but they're more stable. So they were able to give on a regular basis because they had a stable job, post office, teachers, maybe factory jobs. All these jobs have pensions. Was able to buy a home, stuff like that. And now you have a whole new group of people. They ain't stable. So they can't give as much as, say, those baby boomers that came out of those HBCUs during the 60s, 50s, 60s, and even 70s, and even 80s. The times have changed, and you talk about that.
Well, and what do we also talk about, fam? What do we also talk about? How all the wealth is leaving our community. When the silent gen and baby boomers die, the wealth is gone from our community. So you want to talk about collapse? We should be talking about the coming of collapse for black institutions. That's your churches too. There's nobody to give to your church anymore. Grandmama and them and all them, when they pass away, and you don't have anybody. I've been trying to tell that to pastors till I was blue in the face. There's nobody for your church anymore. After these people with their pensions and their school and their good Social Security, because there's nobody with that. Like people have gone a whole span without a whole bunch of years without working. So you're right. The economy is like, these people don't. Well, why don't they give? They don't have it. Like they don't have it. Being able to give means you have an expendable kind of income. They don't have it. So if people don't have it, they're not giving. So I'm keep going, fam. I just wanted to add to what you were saying.
No, that's really all I got to say. I mean, it's just like this whole HBCU thing fits right into everything that you've been talking about for the last, ever since 2010. I mean, so now, and the reason why I say that is because you got these people on YouTube that don't know the history of HBCU. They're defending Ed Reed. They're trashing HBCUs. And I just asked the question, why do HBCUs exist? See, when you ask that question, now you got to look at the U.S. for country that we are ADOS, we're Americans. Now you got to look at our country in the face and say, this is why.
Yeah, and you got to do something about it.
You see what I'm saying?
So like as long as you keep blaming Negroes, you ain't got to do nothing. So if your whole game is just like, I'm gonna blame ADOS for being ADOS, and I'm not gonna look at what has happened to us. So I'm not saying you can't blame the people who are administrators or whatever, but that still means you got to do work. That still means you got to show up and hold them accountable. That still means you got to work. You got to get money, and then when the money go over there, you got to make sure the money ain't squandered. That's a lot of work you got to do, but that's the work. It's so much easier just to show up on YouTube and make a video bashing people when you ain't never invested, you're gonna never have no skin in the game, and you ain't gonna never do no work. The only thing you can do is put your iPhone or a camera in front of you. Now everybody wants to have a YouTube show and talk about things they don't understand. Lord help me.
That's true. And I'll leave you with this quote with Dr. King. But Dr. King, he said, not only that, but they built land-grant colleges to teach them how to farm. That's talking about Big Ten schools. That's talking about SEC, the Southwestern Conference, the Pac-10 schools. All those schools were federally funded, built with federal money, according to Dr. King, to teach the white peasants from Europe how to farm, while the Negroes got nothing. And I'm gonna leave it at that.
Thank you, fam. I appreciate you. Thank you. You have a great night. All right. And I'm gonna say, listen.
Oh, you too.
And I'm gonna say, instead of saying, well, let's go get our money, you want to say, well, you got a point about that trash, Yvette. Let me tell y'all, before y'all say anything about an HBCU, if you're gonna go try to coach at one or even teach at one, ask people questions, read about the history of them, get involved, like do some work. Somebody told me, you keep talking about reading, and reading don't solve problems. You dodo bird. The reading is what helps you understand the problem. The reason that y'all don't understand the problem is because you haven't learned anything about the problem and how it got to be that way. It does solve a problem. You gotta want to go through the process though, and part of the process is learning about the problem. Everybody just want to jump in and just jump in and have an opinion. You are not entitled. I've said this before. Nobody is entitled to an uninformed opinion. You are not entitled to that. We have no obligation to respect an uninformed opinion. And so when Yvette called me a name, you deserved it. You earned it. I'm going now to 469. 469, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, how you doing, Yvette? This is Freeman in Dallas.
Hey, what's going on?
Not much. Just wanted to make a few points. Obviously, we're always in the news, and you, people like you and Tone, are always synthesizing and analyzing what's going on, and so we appreciate that. So I just wanted to get on here real quick and talk about this. I'm a former athlete. I come from a family of former athletes, but also, 4 generations of college education. Obviously, that started in the HBCUs. I won't go into details about that, but just say I didn't go to a HBCU, but I have a pretty good understanding. My siblings did and things like that. So what I can say regarding the Deion and Ed Reed thing, you got to remember, these are brothers from South Florida, right, who have not been in the hood since they were 18. That's one thing about sports and the recruitment of, gifted black athletes who come from the quote-unquote hood, is that when they go to these PWIs at 18 years old, still a child, they get taken out of some rough environments and they're put in, different situations. And you have to understand their interaction, I guess them as people looking at, juxtaposing the hood to what they know now just as athletes, it puts a ceiling on them. So you were talking with somebody, one of the previous callers, and talked about how Deion may only know how to pass this down. Maybe this is the only thing he knows, right? And it's because athletics is such a big business here. There's a cap put on athletes. It's rare that you see black athletes step out and get involved with any real serious business. I'm not talking about a brother like Junior Bridgman who owns 100 Wendy's or something like that. I mean, real serious business. When you talk about a quarterback like Roger Staubach from the Cowboys from back in the day, he gets out and his real estate is bigger than anything he could have ever done in football. It's a lot of players and coaches, white coaches and players who are like this. And I think that it has a lot to do with the recruitment of young black boys at such a young age, taken out of the hood at such an early age, and just exposed for the next 4 to 10 to 15 years of their lives, sometimes if they're really good and they have a long haul, professional career. That's all they know, so that you're not going to see much change. Of course, Deion's not going to change much from prime time, because what else has he been doing? Yeah. He went from professional, he went back to coaching Pee-wee, to his kids, and now he's trying to work his way back up, like a second childhood almost. And when you talk about Ed Reed, man, if you go on his IG, I mean, I'm starting to to see what my grandmother said when I would walk out the door, and I was an athlete in high school. And, have my hair, my fro out. We're going to practice. Put something on your head. You look like you don't have no coot. You look
your grandma call you uncouth.
That's old school. That's old school. Sleight of hand. But if you look at Ed Reed, he's literally not. He hasn't taken himself, or no one has tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Hey, you got to come out of that, brother. You're going to an institution. You're not coaching. You look like a little league football coach. A lot of brothers. I'm not trying to, talk against brothers who are out there helping in the community, but a lot of little league football coaches these days look like that, like they gonna go somewhere else after. I'm not gonna get into that, but
hold on a second with what you're thinking, and I don't have any problem with Ed Reed's hair, so y'all don't send me nothing. But I'm thinking what you're talking about though is just like I don't think people who haven't been to HBCUs understand how black respectability. I'm not talking about for good or for worse. For good and for worse, probably the administrators are right. We still have a lot of black respectability, and even the people who are paying attention. So you understand, Deion went in there with very clean cut and all that kind of stuff, and that's part of how Deion, attractive guy. That's part of, and I'm not saying Ed Reed's not attractive, but I'm just saying that the whole respectability thing, like you already have the beard, you have the hair. I don't think people understand how black respectability. I think the point you're making is that Ed Reed had cut his hair and trimmed himself up, it would have been different too, or something, because like they're still so. And I don't think they should be that way anymore. I don't think they should judge by that. But a thing is a thing.
Of course not.
Yeah. But go ahead.
And they should, not to cut you off. They shouldn't do that. But I think that, there comes a point where we really have to get back to reality. I'm 34. I'll be 35 in April. I've been exposed to a lot. I was an exchange student a couple of times. Like I said, I come from one of those old line, black families, HBCU educated grandparents, great grandparents, what have you. So, I've always wanted to say, hey, no, I don't want to judge anybody based on appearance or based on this or that or how they're, of course not. That's in a perfect world, but the proof is in the pudding. It always bears out that, when you get people from a certain corral, you're going to get certain product out of that person, if you will, for lack of a better term. But when you talk about the black celebrity and black success, I think the main problem is that whole image of black success and black celebrity is being controlled. And not only the image and image of success itself, but rather the derivatives of that success. It's like they put a cap on us, and I guess for so long we're unable to really break out of it. I kind of, and I'll end on this, but I was on your show. I spoke on your show talking about the whole LA City Council thing with the Latinos being their racist selves, and it was funny. My old man and we were talking about some of the aftermath of that. And one of the interesting things, from the ADOS perspective, and as a black man in real estate and development, the Don Peebles and Victor McFarland, two of the richest black men in America, large real estate developers, when that came down, they went just like Ed Reed. They went out of their way to get on TV and voice their dismay at this racist behavior. And they said, oh, we're not going to work with anybody like that. And my old man said, hey, look, now why would these Negroes go in there and say that? No, you don't say nothing. Let him burn in the fire while, in public.
Yeah, while you watch.
And then and then you go into the meeting and you say, hey, this is how we're going to do this. This is what Deion and Ed Reed should have done. If it was that bad and they really had the development of a black institution on their mind, in front of mind, that's the strategy you go in with. Okay, hey, I see all of these things that are going wrong. Boom, we're going to attack it from those angles. And I've heard a lot of brothers who don't even understand the political machinations of things that say, hey, damn, Deion could have been king of Jackson, Mississippi. He could have, but they don't. A lot of brothers don't think
But
that they're not highbrow in that conversation.
Well, here's the thing, though. Like, I don't think they wanted to do that. See, like, if you fix it, you listen. You the king. Everybody love you in Jackson. Like, everybody love you. Like, so you got leverage now. You doing well. Everybody like what you're bringing. Everybody like what you're doing. You have leverage now to do things. But that's only if you came to Jackson to do things. If you came to Jackson to see if you could use that Jackson job to get a job with a private white institution, and that's what you're gonna do. I don't think anybody. I think Ed was just stunned for the gram, and he didn't have no plan. Deion and his wife and them, they planned this thing, and the producers, they planned this thing out a long time. They've been planning this. Ed just came in and said, I'm gonna do the Deion thing, and he didn't have any help. He didn't have no producers. He didn't have no history in reality TV like that. He didn't have the support to do that. So now you just stunting on the gram. Right. Now you just on the gram. Yeah, look at this. And people saying, yeah, thumbs up. You got to watch that because you'll feel like you're doing something. And they revving you up and you keep going. And you didn't realize that you was driving into a swimming pool of turds. Like, you didn't even realize that you were doing it. Right. Because you thought that you thought Deion, this thing was this, whether you agree or not, Deion meticulously planned this. Right. For him and for his kids.
Definitely.
Ed didn't do that. And it's just like, dude, you don't even understand. That's why Deion came out and support him, and that's all he said. After that, he said, "Well, I'm gonna pray for you." If somebody come in after the stuff went down, I'm gonna pray for you. That's them saying, "I done said all I'm gonna say."
Right. And I'll just end on the fact that Deion, he's gotten in Colorado, and I saw a picture of him basically recruiting the boys with Lamborghinis and like Louis Vuitton, like man bags, and I just say, I don't know how. I guess organizations like the ADOS movement, and how do we poke these folks, tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, this isn't the way. There has to be something. I don't know. Like I said, you guys are the professionals with this. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, fam.
And like the old folks said, a lot of black folks, if they was birds, they'd be flying in reverse. So we gotta just keep doing what you're doing, man.
I ain't never heard that before. Thank you, fam. I appreciate it. Oh my God.
All right, take care.
Yeah, y'all be bumping into each other from the back. These people. I saw a flock of birds this morning. They were scared to live. I see birds flying everywhere. It's not like the first time I seen it, but it was a huge number of blackbirds just swoosh. And then just come in the yard like, hold on, and they listen. They all in unison. Swoosh, swoosh. They fly at the same time. Swoosh. We can't even get on one accord about what has to happen and who has to do whatever. We just swoosh, crashing into each other. Y'all remember the thing I put up about the ants that survived the flood because they stuck together? They didn't try to swim off as one ant and say, you get it how you live, because they all would have died. So they realized they got to get together in a clump. Child, we in the birds, we in the ants, we in the people. Anyway, let me go to I'm going to 443. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hi, am I on?
Yeah, you're on. How you doing? What's your name? Where you calling from?
This is George from Baltimore.
What's going on?
I like the story. I'm so nervous. I haven't called in a while. I like the story that you're airing on right now on Ed and his shenanigans at the college, but I feel like the age of black celebrity is coming to an end. And I feel like a lot of these black celebrities have been around for so long that they don't know anything else. A lot of these older celebrities should move out the way for the young people. Like the young people make a place for themselves. Plus, I think that Deion used his time at Jackson State to build up his own reputation and career so he can move on to the white college. Deion's currently at the University of Colorado. Got any thoughts on that?
What'd you say?
Hello?
What'd you say? I missed the last part of what you said. He's at the University of Colorado and what?
Yeah, Deion, he used Jackson State to fluff up his resume so he could go over to the University of Colorado, where only 1% of the student body is black, which is black athletes. It's like 90% white.
Yeah, he don't care. Deion don't care. That's where you want to be.
But a lot of the guy who made an ass of himself at the college and then going live on Instagram. A lot of these men are damn near 60 years old. I think we need new young fresh blood to come in to coach these college campuses. Also, you were right. They predict that the largest transaction of wealth is going to take place when the white baby boomers die off and pass it on to their children and heirs. So the black community is really in shambles right now because the baby boomers are getting older. So plus, we don't really got any money. Any thoughts on the wealth transferring hands? They say by 2040 or 2030 when baby boomers start dying off.
Oh, it's finished. Like that's the reason why what we've done is like paint reparations as urgency. It's finished. Like they and we haven't even had the conversation with them about how they're gonna die. Meaning, like, do you have a reverse mortgage on the house? Do you take out a second mortgage? Like, what are you doing? Like, who gets this? Like, let me see how the will is written, because most of this stuff isn't gonna get passed down. Most of this stuff is gonna go back, or most of this stuff is not gonna go to. Everybody's gonna be in the court fighting over it, right? Even our wealthy people don't have wills. What does that show you? I saw something about Lisa Marie Presley's will and what she wanted. I'm not like, at least she had a will, right? Like, she's a celebrity, but like mostly from the extent of like a parent. But like we have Prince, Aretha, a lot of people of our people. Like if you're people who actually have money and royalties and stuff like that, do not have a will. Like and we aren't forcing people to have that conversation. So like what's gonna happen is that like they're gonna be able to live, and you're gonna treat them like they're gonna pass something down, and then when they pass on, they're not gonna pass something down, right? Because you didn't get into the crux of it. Like is Medicaid gonna get some of this? Because Medicaid can take it too. It's a lot of stuff that can go on. But I believe a lot of the wealth, because a lot of the wealth isn't in homes, it's in pensions and stuff, right? And so those pensions can't be transferred, and so that wealth dies with them. Like, it's not just housing wealth. All this pension wealth and all that stuff, that goes with them. And then that's when, if you want to pinpoint them when we fall over a cliff, it's when you can't call grandma, when you can't call granddaddy, when you can't get 20 from them or 40 from them or 100 from them for the rent or whatever, because they're gone. It's over then.
Also, when black folks inherit our parents' or grandparents' homes, we usually are left with massive tax bills they had to pay. Like property taxes tend to eat up a lot of our homes' value. A lot of people lose their homes to property taxes, and they end up getting sold at auction. But that's true what you said about the Medicaid, because there are a lot of relatives that receive Medicaid. If you die on, I heard something like if you die on Medicaid, and Medicare, they can take your house, and yet you have to fight to keep your house.
I put out there's a great article about that goes through, like, if your parent or whoever's on Medicaid and they have to get Medicaid because they're elderly and poor, Medicaid can come and take your home. Now, nobody wants to have that conversation with their parents or parent about, okay, what programs are you on? What subsidies are you on? Or are you getting? What have you done with the home? We feel like, oh, it's their home. No, yes, you do. It's not just their home anymore. You have to talk about how you have to have a conversation with people about how they transition. And it's hard, trust me. I know. My parents were in their 80s. I totally understand. But like, it has to happen. And you can't shy away from it, because they're already going to take everything they have. Like, they're already going to take a bunch of stuff. Mostly, like, we got more wealth than, like, I think, or in pensions than we have maybe in property. So we got a lot that's going to leave anyway. And you need to be in there figuring out what stays and how it stays.
Thanks for letting me call in. I enjoyed talking to you. I wanted to know one last question. Or would you do a show on the Bruce's Beach fiasco that went down? Because Tony did a show on it about how they lost the land. Basically, it was like a psyop because they sold the land back to California for like $20 million, and they had like 3 acres football fields worth of land, and they sold it back to California for only $20 million.
Well, yeah, like you said, I think Antonio did a show about that. And you can check that out at tonetalks.com. I think I'm going to leave it at that. I think what needs to be said was said when he did the show. So I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you, fam. Appreciate you. You have a good one. Going to go to my next caller. I'm going to go to 678. 678, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, this is Mike from it's Mike from Atlanta.
Hey, Mike, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on? Then I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
How how do you solve a problem that you choose to ignore?
You don't.
You don't. So I'm saying this I'm an HBCU grad. My wife is an HBCU grad. My brother's an HBCU grad. His wife's an HBCU grad. My mother's an HBCU grad. So I'm steeped, right? I'm tired of having the conversations with people bashing our institutions. Do they need to be worked on? Of course, you know that, because you're an HBCU grad.
Yeah, they do.
We complain when we was there.
Ooh,
we complain when we was there.
Ooh, did we complain?
People don't understand because
Listen,
they don't understand. We have a right to complain because we were there. We spent our money there. We spent our time there. We got our degrees from there. We got our blood, sweat, and tears out of there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't take. It's no love lost with the institution. We understand. We coming from a place of we're descendants of slaves. That's why the schools exist. So we have to the people that I've been talking to never stepped foot on an HBCU campus, ain't never paid money to HBCU campus, and don't understand the history of why they are in the situations they are in. For example, Tennessee State. I sent you this in your email if you ain't seen it. Tennessee State just now receiving $250 million from the state of Tennessee. They owe $500 million, but they just gave them $250 million from decades of being underfunded, illegally underfunded by the state. Now, we know we got 103, 104 HBCUs, and out of those, we got a lot of state schools that have been underfunded purposely.
Intentionally.
Right? My school was one of them. So when we think about these HBCUs and how people just letting these black celebrities come down and tarnish the name of Mary McLeod Bethune, are you serious? You're going to tarnish the name of this great educator? She was an advisor to the president, and you're going to let this fool who ran a ball up and down the field, I'm sorry.
It's the truth. It's the truth. Don't shy away from the truth.
You don't get to come down and talk bad about one of our institutions that you didn't attend. You don't get to do that because you wouldn't do that at the University of Miami when you played there.
Ooh.
If they gave you a job at one of these other people at PWIs, you wouldn't say that. What you did was you felt like you could punch down on the HBCU because everybody else allowed it. And I'm tired of people doing it. I'm a proud HBCU. Like I said, I had problems when I was there. But the one thing I know is you only solve a problem if you know what the problem is. If you understand what the problem is, then you say, you know what, like I've had people that go to schools that I'm not going to send my kid to HBCU. I said, well, how do we fix them? If you keep going and you go to the school and you see the problem and you say, well, I ain't going to send my kid there. Well, how do we fix the problem? It's funny how we choose to ignore this kind of stuff. You know, I mean, these are the same people. It's funny because these are the same people that say they Pan-Africanists. I don't even understand it. Y'all are just...
Yeah, they pro-black until they come to HBCUs. And I wouldn't send my kid there. They ain't even pro-ADOS. They pro-black until they go, I wouldn't send my kid there. Well, your kid wouldn't get it in nowhere anyway because you didn't get out of the 9th grade, so you hush.
And here's another thing. There's always been a fraction of students who protested something on campus. Because
Always.
That's how things change. People don't even remember this. In the 90s, I'm going to give credit where credit is due. There was a show in the early 90s, late 80s called A Different World. Mm-hmm. It was based on what? An HBCU. Mm-hmm. Now, we could say it was fantastical and everything like that, but they had an episode where they sat in the administration's office because they wanted something. I can't remember exactly what it was. But this was based on years of people doing that at Morris Brown College, at Morehouse, at your alma mater.
At Howard, we sit in all the time.
Yeah, you get what I'm saying? So people that go there, we understand that. It's the other people that allowed it in us, saying, oh, yeah, Ed Reed did this, Ed Reed did this. Ed Reed was there for 3 weeks. Ain't that much passion for your kids in the world. He don't even know them kids. 3 weeks? Let me ask you a question. You ever been on a job for 3 weeks and love your job so much you get to cry for it?
No, fam, no.
I mean, I'm just saying. He acted like they took something from him. I said, but you was there for 3 weeks. You knew what it was before you got there. People. The dude, Reggie Theus, who was the athletic director, been there for 2 years, I believe. In order for you to get somebody to become a job, you're going to have to tell them what's going on at the university. Hey, we don't have this. Hey, we won't have that. people totally forgot about this school went through 2 hurricanes and COVID. I'm going to go break further than that. In 2020, they just got off probation through Sachs. You know about Sachs? If you went to a southern school like I did, I went to Grambling. Sachs came to my school in the 90s, and I remember I thought they was going to take our accreditation. And I was like, maybe I may have to transfer. And I was going to transfer to Morris Brown. And they said, listen, I wouldn't do that. You know
they finna get them.
You have to understand, like, the history of these schools and why they are the way they are. For Ed Reed to go to that school after 2 hurricanes and COVID and then talk about the trash lets me know he didn't know nothing about that school, and it all was a ploy for him. He was trying to get clout off of the school's back.
Yep.
And that ain't cool. Because you're not a graduate, you didn't pay for that school, your kids don't go to that school. But when we go to schools, when you see those schools like Bethune, Cookman, or like a family, when I went to family, my wife went to family, I'm sorry, we went for a homecoming, and one thing I saw was a lot of legacy at that school. 5, 6 generations of people in the state of Florida going to that school. There's a lot of history behind that. So those people ain't going to let you come down there and talk bad about their school. I'm going to tell you that right now. So for him, for people that see this online, the people that didn't go HBCUs, let me explain something to y'all. Those are the only institutions we have left. And when I mean institutions like we had the institution of slavery in America.
Well, hold on, and let me ask you a question, fam. Let me ask you a question. I'm gonna ask you a question now. Can you have can you have an ADOS community without ADOS institutions? Right? We always talk about our community, our community, our community. Do you have a community with no institutions?
I think it's impossible. Because what are we grounded in? What do we have to fight? We had the black church at one point, and that was the thing that kept us together. I mean, you think about this, we came out of one institution, we had to go into something else. We came out of the institution of slavery, and we tried Reconstruction. But it was 10 years of Reconstruction. Well, we didn't do any, we tried it, but that, the separate but equal didn't work, and all this stuff happened. Well, we were given land grants to start our own institutions so we could become first-class citizens. Mm-hmm. And the only thing we have left from that era is these institutions. All of our institutions, if most not all, are over 100 years old. If we go back to Obama administration, I think 3 of them closed under his administration.
Yeah, Obama was very. You remember that's the only thing that's one of the things I agreed with the CBC about. The CBC said they had a meeting with Obama about HBCUs, and he said, well, if they're not up to 2023, they have to follow by. He basically said screw them. And even the CBC was like, oh my God, we can't believe this.
Right, exactly. People, they heard that in the media. They didn't talk about that a lot. Mm-mm. That the percentage of the money that was going to HBCUs and the attention that was going there, you thought would have been more when he in the office. It's like everything, it just got, pushed over to the side. Not only did we lose homes under him and business under him, we lost some institutions that were open for hundreds of years before he got there. George Bush had a better time with HBCUs. Not saying it was great.
And you listen,
he did better for HBCUs.
Yep, and black business, which is terrible because he had an abysmal one.
I think he had 8%. I think George Bush had 8%, and Obama had like 4, some crazy number. So I'm saying all this, and I want to hold up the line because I get to talking, but I'm an HBCU grad, and I got a lot of history in my family HBCUs. And the one thing I tell everybody is, we don't have them HBCUs, your kids don't go to college. Because they're not going to these big schools in big numbers.
I don't even know. Listen,
University of Georgia won't even let you walk on their campus.
No, and they're not doing like an HBCU will even. I remember at Howard, if you weren't strong as they thought you should be in a subject, you had a remedial class. These other kids, you got to get in there and compete.
Exactly.
Don't nobody care about you, and there's no culture that supports you. Now, if I had a kid, I would send them to Howard, but y'all got to get rid of Nicole Hannah-Jones. That's part of the money I'm gonna send. She got to go. But like, and Greg Carr got to go. Like, I'm not. Some things I'm not negotiating, but I'm gonna have a little money. I want to have a little money with me to say, hey, I got a nice check I'm gonna try to give for the Alumni Association, ADOS, but these people got to go. But I'm just saying that, like, I'm not of the mindset that I would not send my check. Because how do you have institutions? And like, how do you have, and not only institutions, but institutions that support your kid? We have a lot of problems. Listen, I had a lot of problems in my HBCU. My alma mater, you had experienced a lot of them as yours. I remember I had a roach problem one time. Them things, Oh, they was fast roaches. But anyway, that. But we've all had problems.
We had a cricket problem in mine. We had crickets in our library. People was fighting to get in the library. But that's things that you deal with. Listen.
Them roaches made you strong. Them crickets made you strong.
Huh?
I said them crickets made you strong, and the roaches made you strong. Like I felt when I left Howard, I could survive anything.
The epitome of ADOS life, you learned that when you went to HBCU. You understood this is what ADOS life is like. That's why when you got there, you felt like you was at home.
Well, and the thing,
you felt like you was at home. You see other people. You were just the one thing you didn't have to worry about was your race.
Yes, and you felt like you were support, and you felt like everybody was like you. So I'm not gonna have to deal with the racism. Exactly. Nobody's gonna be messing with me. Exactly. Everybody wants me to win. And the thing is, my peers want me to win. My teachers want me to win. So it's one of the only places that you can go and like everybody wants you to graduate. Everybody wants you to be okay. Everybody wants you to, you're not gonna get that otherwise. You're like, well, I could just go to. You're not gonna get that kind of. You're not gonna get that kind of support at a white school. It's never gonna happen. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna close out. Y'all have to make and ask yourselves, as a people, what is more important? This black celebrity and money, or your black institutions, your freedom and reparations? Because you can't have both of those. One of them is a blockade for the other.
Ooh.
You can't have both. You got to choose.
Choose.
You can choose a black celebrity, but you get everything that come along with that. But if you choose these black institutions, you choosing your liberation, your freedom, and your reparations with that.
Absolutely.
And I'm just going to say that and close out that I love you.
Love you back, fam.
And, you take care of yourself.
Appreciate you. And he right. He had crickets. They were roaches. Oh, God, you wake up. What is that? What is that? But listen. You lived through some stuff. What? So I'm going to 850. 850, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
How you doing, Ms. Carnell? This is Ed from Freeport.
What's going on, Freeport?
What's on my mind? Man, I'm sorry I'm interrupting you.
No, go ahead. I just said, what's up with Freeport? That's all I said.
How you doing, man? So, yeah, great caller tonight. First thing was the caller about talking about respectability. It's interesting that, when there's I work with, professional black people in the government. And, like, when we talk about, like, the stuff that we see on television, they always complain about, like, black people not, speaking well on television, or they're not carrying themselves well on television. And there's this respectability element that they see. But when Ed Reed goes and blasts HBCUs and, and Deion talks about, like, how he was robbed or basically, pilfered while he was on College Campton, and his kid was talking about how there was murders and that seemed to go on forever. It seems like they encourage that. So it's really a weird space to be in when you're around other black people, and they lean on, or they hate, or they expect respectability politics for certain situations, for protesting. But when it comes to stuff like this, when they see celebrities call out and disparage and demeaning our institutions and anything that we do, they seem to back it. Another point that someone mentioned was the money thing. Like these athletes or these celebrities don't have money, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, that is a very good point, because, like, I'm from Miami, and University of Miami has pumped out, like, some of the greatest Hall of Fame athletes of all time, like Frank Gore, Ed Reed, Reggie Wayne, Michael Irvin. Like, I could rattle off 10 names, but, like, for a long time, UM struggled, and if you guys didn't know, like, UM is a private institution, but UM was struggling with, like, getting recruits because they couldn't compete with the other schools because they got bigger endowments and their gyms were nicer and stuff like that. And for a long time, UM had a problem, until, I guess about 5 years ago, this head coach from Georgia named Mark Richt came in there. He gave a new facility. So none of the players did this. None of the players came in, and helped the university. It was actually a white head coach out of Georgia who did this. So I found that interesting, that point that the Duke, or that person spoke about the money.
Yep.
And the last thing is I wanted to give a shout out to Eddie George, who's out at Tennessee State, and you don't hear anything about that brother. You know, like he's a once NFL athlete. He was a great running back, but he didn't have the prestige, and he had the pedigree of Ed. I'm sorry.
No, I just said one of the exceptions. Yep.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like we've had 3 examples of head coaches. You know, you have Deion, the polished, Cheshire Cat. You had you had Ed Reed, the madman, and then you have Eddie George, who's just doing his thing, helping the institutions, behind, just doing it in anonymity. He's just doing a great job, and it's just an interesting dichotomy of like where we are in sports and HBCUs, and it's really to bring this all home. Like me personally, I didn't go to a HBCU. I went to a PWI. But what's important is like I have to think about where I'm gonna send my kids. That's my tie into this. Like, how do I make a decision on where do I send my kids? And do I want them to be protected? Because it doesn't seem like these HBCU academics. They're not teaching ADOSness. They're teaching Pan-Africanism. Then you talk about the money where they're not bringing money in because they're not holding the politicians accountable. Like, what am I supposed to do as a ADOS, aware, adult who wants to protect and educate their kids
Let me say one thing. I think we can take over that Pan-Africanism. I think if we teach our kids like this ADOSness, we can overrun that Pan-Africanism in these schools. Like, because part of that is that we send kids in to learn and they don't have a base before they get there. But the other things, I understand what you're saying. But I think we could take over that whole Pan-Africanism stuff. We could take over Africana studies. Go on, fam. I'm sorry.
No. We had such great callers, and my mind was just connecting dots to all of these. And on all of this, I kind of just said, this is just effing football. Who cares? In the big scheme of things, like in Florida right now, we got Attorney Crump, about to sue DeSantis. So it's like that's what's important. Like all this other stuff is a distraction. And I'll just leave on that. But thank you so much, Ms. Cornell. You're amazing.
Appreciate it,
God bless you and the ADOS family.
All right, thank you, fam. I appreciate you. Thank you for calling in. And let me say something else. Wasn't it Google who said that like there was a thing that we found out that like they don't hire from HBCUs? It was one tech company there was some person who was a whistleblower had worked there who said they said that HBCUs are inferior and they don't hire from HBCUs, right? And my thing is, people like Deion Sanders and the tickets and all this and people like whatever the man names who I was talking about tonight, Reed. What was his name? I can't remember that. Ed Reed. Like, these people contribute to the idea that we are inferior. When you go there and you say, oh my God, this is inferior. They ain't had the tickets and stuff was messed up and the money, and he goes and say, look at the trash, they just ain't running stuff right. Then people hear that. And see, everybody who doesn't hire from HBCU says, oh, see, I told you, they can't even manage their trash. Like, you don't even know how to, when the kids are protesting, that's when you need to show up. Like, I support the kids. You have a bigger microphone than they do, though. But, like, you should support them and say, hey, they're underfunded, we should take care of it. There's a difference between underfunded and being inferior. I don't remember the man's name. I keep forgetting. The way Reed or whatever his name, the way he presented, oh, they just lazy. Y'all gotta, and everybody on Twitter. So now it's not that like, it's not a protest like Howard or even a protest like Bethune. Hey, we need stuff, our equipment, and these people, these administrators, we got to get them out because everybody knows that. Like there are people you got to get out sometimes because they corrupt or whatever the case may be. No, it's just like they're inferior. You all are playing into this anti-ADOS stereotype. So, that's a problem too. Let me go to 954. 954, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, what's going on, Yvette? This is Jason from Florida.
What's going on, Jason? We got some Florida calls.
Yeah, you know what it is? Good call tonight. I went to Cookman, went to PWI, but went to Cookman for a year, graduated. Cookman is unlike any other HBCUs out there. Once you go there, there's a legacy that they have there that Mayor McLeod Bethune established. Unless you've been there, you wouldn't understand that there's a legacy that has to be upheld. Mm-hmm. And what he did was just basically on our grave with what he was doing for himself. And I'll tell you this much, once you walk through, I would assume, any HBCU walls, there's a certain connection with the HBCU school that you feel that you'll protect it. And what he did was detrimental, especially the fact that he's never been to an HBCU. Most football players, I remember LaShawn McCoy mentioned, he didn't even know what an HBCU was. So what ends up happening is you got these celebrities. The more nuanced conversation has to be, why is it that so everybody exploits Adolph's communities? The game now is that black celebrities realize they could exploit Adolph's people the same way to get to what they need to be. So it's why is it that, and I've looked at hundreds of comments just to see where the mind state was of people. And the one thing I've noticed is most of the comments, first of all, people haven't gone to HBCUs, so they shouldn't have a state in it. But most of them will accept a celebrity disrespecting their institutions, disrespecting them, period. And what is it about us that we can feel like we can just get disrespected? You can just do us any kind of way, and we just supposed to take it. That's the problem, and that's the psyche that I'm trying to figure out. What is it about us that allows us to feel like we can just be disrespected? Doesn't matter who it is. Doesn't matter what. We just disrespect us and just take it. As long as a person got a check for it, just you can do me any kind of way. And not see the fact that Ed Reed, as well as, and I don't want to say nothing about Roland Martin, or just the rest of them, everybody is just such opportunists that they can't even see it in their face. But they're coming, these are first-time head coaches. They can't get a job anywhere at any PWI. They're just using us as a stepping stool. Just step on it, do what you got to do, and then just move on to the next. It's one of those things that it's like we can't see it. We know it, but it's almost like we don't have any self-respect. And I'm not talking about individual, just collectively. That there's a lack of self-respect that we just say, hey, no, you can't do us that type of way. No matter who you are, we're not going to allow that. That, and then the other thing is the reason why he was crying is because he realized his coaching opportunity, his chance at a 5-year or 4-year, $20 million deal like Deion is evaporated. No HBCU is going to touch him. And the fact that, which also means that he's either going to have to spend 10, 15, 20 years as an assistant coach at a PWI. He just lost a $20 million check because he couldn't close his mouth. That's the reason why he's crying. So, but I don't know if other people see it or not.
And he couldn't stop crying. He kept crying. I ain't never smile. You can't hush. You gonna go over here and cry over here. Then you gonna go on Roland Martin, and then they gonna have to. And the man got to grab you. Hold on, brother. I mean, come on. Like, I didn't say he didn't say that, but I mean, that was just the motion of it. Like, like he had seen a dead body or something. I mean, it was yeah, I agree with you. Like, that was the whole meltdown, the lack of self-control can't bode well for his opportunities elsewhere. It doesn't seem to me.
Well, he's not going to be able to go anywhere. No HBCU's going to touch him because we're all going through institutional problems like that. That's one. But then two, like, you got to put in work to get into a PWI. Just like Deion had to. He couldn't get into Florida State off the rip. He had to put in some work at Jackson and then jumped on the first opportunity you can get. So that's the game. Just kind of exploit us. Just no matter who you are, just exploit white, Asian, Chinese. You can just exploit us. Tell us anything. We'll just take it and just jump all over us. The one pushback I will give to the first caller, he was correct as far as for money, but money is relative. See, Deion has more money than me, so what is enough is the real question. The problem is there is never enough money, and I think that's what you were trying to say, is that money is relative. Deion's not poor. Deion has enough money where he doesn't have to just jump on anything. The point being is he doesn't see community over money. And that's the problem with a lot of celebrities. They don't see community over money.
And we celebrate it though, fam. The problem is not just that it happens, is that when somebody chooses to choose themselves over the community is the first ones who clap. Like, that's the problem. What do you do with that?
Yes, I think, and the other thing with Cookman, and not the other thing, you don't want to air but dirty laundry too much, but there's so much corruption. I don't think we're not far enough away from poverty.
Yep.
Or like out of Jim Crow and slavery that when we see an opportunity, we
take it. Yep.
That's mine.
No, and I agree with the corruption. We had the same thing. Some of that at Howard. Like, the corruption is real. I've never been like, people be like, you don't want to say nothing out loud. I'm like, no, it's real. And what you do is that you have to deal with it and you root it out. That's what has to happen. And we have to hold those people accountable. But you should need Ed Reed to do that. Like, that should be something that we want to do in terms of just accountability for our community. We should just not want corrupt people in our institutions. Why does it take Ed Reed showing up for you to be like, oh my God, they're corrupt, we got to get them out of there? No, that's what the students was telling y'all. And when the board members left in 2018, is that there's some funded business going on here. That's not new. And I think people don't understand it. Like, listen, as far as I'm concerned, we were in slavery less than 100 years ago. Like we still have sharecropping and slavery. Like, that's going to have vestiges that we have to root out. That's part of the work.
I got another question. The other thing is this: you mentioned that he had Shaq and other donors that were going to put in money and stuff like that. My question to Shaq is: if you were going to donate money, Shaq, you should donate it whether Ed Reed's there or not. If you're going to donate to the school, aren't you? But no, it's like the weirdest thing where they just, I had this person who donated it. Well, if he was going to donate to the school, he should donate regardless. We don't donate. We just, I don't know, man. It's a lack of community, and it's just, I don't know. It's like vapid.
I agree.
I will ask a question, though, and I think it's not so much a pushback, but it is a question I would like to ask you just now that you're online. Yeah. I know you're going to answer it honestly.
Sure.
But you guys are the ones that, you basically started the entire movement as far as reparations, whether you get the credit or not. A lot of reparations started with you, and I've done the research. My question, though, is, I guess twofold. One is, in order to get John Yarmouth to come to the inaugural conference, he obviously seen something, the same thing you've seen, where I can move. He's seen a movement happening. My question to you would be, do you think that Adolf's people, not the hashtag, people that Adolf's people, the lineage, do you think you might have did you overestimate exactly where we were from a mentality standpoint? Do you think you moved too soon with us?
You moved too quick for the group.
Ready for where you were going, basically.
You saying do I think I moved too quick for the group? Right, in terms of what the group was.
Yeah, basically.
Well, it's interesting because I think it's interesting because when you ask that question, you understand how important it was to get John Yarmouth there, right? And I think
he's not going to come to an inaugural conference just to come.
No.
The why is the fact that he understands. Whoa, I got to get ahead of this.
Well, there were a lot of people understand that I have to get ahead of it, right? And they were paying attention, right? And what happened, and I think those people came there to estimate exactly what is this movement and how big is this movement? Because this could be some stuff that causes real trouble. What I underestimated, because I think you can get. I think if people don't get in the way, you can move the mentality in a direction, right? Now, I did think that we would be closer. That we were closer to people when it caught fire. I thought, okay, we are real close to everybody really kind of, or a critical mass of people really understanding this and moving in a direction. I think number one was right. I think number two was wrong, right? Because what happens is my people decide all the time they want to hit the reset button, right? They want to do something and they want to hit the reset button. They want to believe something, they want to hit the reset button. Also, I didn't really estimate the number of people that would come and say, hey, Vet, hey, Antonio, great idea. I'm about to take it and run off with it, right? And so you now have a lot of groups who are, and I didn't anticipate people would say, that's fine, Yvette, why you'd have a problem with that, right? And I wouldn't have a problem with different groups, like let's say you do this and you're like a faction of ADOS and you're over here. But you're doing your thing, right? And you may have a different name, but you're over here, and now we can coordinate with all of you. I would have no issue with that. My issue is that I'm at a space where I feel like what Ed Reed is doing on a football level, and Deion was doing, I feel like a lot of people are using the reparations movement for the same thing. Like as a thing to just kind of catapult themselves ahead of the collective as opposed to leading the collective. That I did not anticipate. And I said that on a previous show. I didn't anticipate that. Right? And that was if you on Patreon, go listen to a previous show. There was a great gentleman who called in and said, Yvette, your expectations are too high for your people. And he laid out he's about 80 something years old, he said, and he laid out a lot of stuff that's happened in his life. And he said your expectations were too high. You just expected too much. Right. And he said, our people, they are not there yet. Right. So, I do like if somebody made that criticism, I would absolutely accept it, because I do think with as quick as people caught on, I had really high expectations about how that was going to move and how fast it was going to move. We're getting all kind of people to the conference. Marianne Williams on the national debate stage. I also didn't anticipate the mainstream media to begin to totally shut us out and smear us at the same time. That I didn't anticipate too. And so you had a lot of people who were just believing the media, right? As opposed to like, I'm telling you something. I have YouTube shows that show you exactly what I've been saying. I have a history on Twitter, and somebody tells you that I'm a Russian bot or whatever, and you go with it and you believe it, and you don't check the source, and the people will not allow, I can't call and say this isn't true. Like I call and you act like I don't exist as a person. Right. And it's just that I didn't anticipate either. I should have anticipated that part, that the media would totally I thought they would just invite us on and say, explain yourself, and we would have a debate. No, they act like you don't exist. And then they bring in somebody like Robert Ruth Simmons and says, this person is the mother of the modern reparations movement. That I didn't anticipate. A woman who's the mother of a failed reparations plan that came post ADOS. Like, that I didn't anticipate. So there were things that I definitely didn't anticipate, and I expected us to be able to move, in a direction, in a unified direction together, because it was looking that way, early on, that we will be able to move in a unified direction together. That's not what happened, because hungry people want to eat the seeds, it seems to me, and I try not to be angry about it, because I have to understand that you're hungry, but I also have to understand that fruit can't come. We can't ever grow fruit if you keep eating the seed. Stop digging it up, right? And so eventually I have to get you away from the movement, because or do everything I can to get you away from the movement, or get you away from the fruit, right? To get you away from, because we're never gonna have a harvest if you keep running in here and digging up the seeds, right? And people would cheer them on, and I would dig up the seed too. And it's just kind of like, no, you're not supposed to dig up the seed. You're supposed to wait for the harvest. But since we don't have many harvests, we don't believe that a harvest is coming. That's what happens with a poor group. A poor group never believes that the harvest is coming, because every time the harvest comes, somebody else gets it and takes it away. Our group has been a harvest group. That's what I call us all the time. Because whether it be white people, whether it be whatever, there are other people who have always taken our culture, and it's not just white people who have taken our culture and walked away and made a bunch of money off of it, right? So everything, whether you talk about, with the peanut, or when you talk about our inventions, somebody else walks away with the harvest. So the problem with my people now is convincing them that, listen, if you leave that seed alone, we will have a harvest. I promise you we'll have a harvest. Put the shovel down. No, so that's the problem.
Very well said. All right, well, listen, I appreciate it. I think a very good show that you have going on. Yeah, I appreciate all the work that you've done and continue to do. I'll leave with the one thing, because honestly, you and as well as Mr. Moore are the only ones actually speaking with critical thinking skills out there. And I tried to listen to all of them out there. No one can really articulate what you guys are trying to do for us. And I don't think what people are understanding, and I'll leave with this, because I'm half ADOS, but I don't understand. I don't think people understand is that if black people, and I don't like using the word black, I use ADOS because black is not a race. Black is really your ethnicity. That's why you're Black American, White American, Native American, Black. It's been conflated to mean a race. It's not a race. But anyways, it's my belief, and if you look at what's going on around the world, everybody is shutting black people out. India, Poland, Italy.
India's awful,
everybody's
ain't it?
battening down the hatches. This is the only place we have left, and it's with the mass immigration going on right now and the non-teaching of ADOS history in schools. The idea is to wipe literally wipe clean ADOS people. There's like a death date, like a death certificate on like ADOS lineage, and once that's done, I mean once that's done, like we have nowhere to go worldwide. I travel worldwide. There's nowhere we can go. Everybody's practicing basically anti-ADOS or anti-black like segregation or racism, whether openly or like inconspicuously. It's just going on. So I don't know if people understand this is because we're not really well traveled in the ADOS community, like globally.
Yeah, we don't understand like worldwide discrimination.
Only place we have left.
We think it's worse here. And it's like, no, people actually even if we're not treated well, even the discrimination, they understand it like this is home. Like everybody understands that this is the home for ADOS. Like ADOS built the country. Like they understand we're here. Like you go somewhere else, and I don't even understand why Pan-Africanists don't get upset about. Like I look at the stuff that happens to Africans in India, and I'm like, this is some horrible stuff I'm watching. Like and then if we say something about, hey, you know, there's a caste system in India that's being imported here that's problematic to people who are on the bottom caste, who are from India as well as here, that's it's xenophobic. Like, listen, you should be, as a Pan-Africanist, you should care, like, what's happening here. If you are true, they don't. So, what can you do? But thank you, fam.
So sad, but thanks again.
I appreciate you. You have a good one. Yes, also sad. I am, I'm going to my last call. My last call is 256. 256, what's your name, where you calling from, and what's on your mind? 256, you there?
Huntsville, Alabama.
Oh, hey, how you doing, fam? What's going on?
Hey, how you doing? I was just listening, and I went to HBCU 3 times and worked at several. And one thing with Ed Reed and Deion Sanders and the rest is that I wish that we could take the energy that we are focusing on those guys and devote it to people that really did things for these HBCUs, like the people that died for these HBCUs, develop initiatives. And I knew some of them, I heard of some of them. But the thing with HBCUs, I think that's important, is that they develop these programs, and the people who developed them, they could have gone other places.
Mm-hmm.
They had more talent, they had more character than I think Deion and Ed Reed say, but they chose to go to these places. When you listen to Deion, or especially Deion, not so much Ed, but Deion would say, well, he may not be here long, or when he was talking about being at Jackson State.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was obvious that he was looking to move somewhere else or use it as a parlay. And the people I knew that worked at these HBCUs, they wanted to be there. They felt that if they weren't there, then they were missing out on the opportunity to educate people like myself or people like my dad went to HBCU. So I just wish we took more positive energy and say, hey, let's take these legacies that developed. You had these big bands that were at these HBCUs that changed the course of jazz, changed the course of pop music, that generated billions of dollars in just in music and entertainment. You had scientists. I'm a physicist, so you had these black physicists that was a close-knit group that went out, and they couldn't, in some cases, they couldn't go to
what'd you say you do, fam? What'd you say you do?
I said I'm a physicist by trade, so there's a lot of there's a close-knit group of black physicists, say from the 1950s, 60s, and 70s even.
I didn't know there were more. I'm shocked there's that many of y'all. Woo!
Well, there's a group that's called the National Society of Black Physicists. I'm not a part of it. I used to go to meetings, but there was a guy in my that started the physics department at Alabama A&M, and he was a high school dropout. I mean, he was a 7th grade dropout. His name was Howard Foster. So he drops out of 2nd grade. At some point, he goes into the Army, comes back to the 7th grade again, and eventually gets his PhD, starts the physics program at A&M. So he started counting the number of black physicists back in the 60s. And so there's a very tight-knit group where the person that started the physics program at, say, A&M and came from pretty much FISK. FISK was the kind of the hub for the black scientists at that time. And so there's a small group of black physicists that taught it, someone taught it high school even because they couldn't get jobs early on, but these groups went on and fostered and allowed, like the engineering programs to develop, they foster programs that a lot of the, say, places like MIT where they would form these different consortiums for like black HBCU students.
Mm-hmm.
They come once they graduated. They go to MIT, places like that. So you have these great legacies that we just kind of overlook. And I just wish we would spend more positive time just dealing with these great legacies instead of focusing on these football players or different celebrities who are trying to just kind of use that energy or use that legacy for their own individual efforts.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, America is about making money and all that, but also it's just about legacy.
Mm.
And our legacy is very powerful, but I think a lot of times, especially as alumni, we don't really put the time it takes to really organize and strategize to see how we going to protect the next generation.
That's true.
I think right now, even at the HBCUs, they trying to close a lot of different programs that, like especially with the certain program like physics and things like that, they're always going to be closed because you get a new president and they're trying to either save money or what have you, but at the same time, these legacies are being kind of thwarted. And I don't know if that kind of is the theme of your show is the legacy HBCUs, but I just think that we should spend more positive time. But another thing too, if you want to understand the history of HBCUs, read the book by Ralph Ellison, The Invisible Man. That's an excellent book. It's a novel, but in his story, he kind of goes through a lot of trials, and it's interesting when he first looks at the sculpture of the founder of Booker T. Washington and the veil. He says, "Oh yeah, he's taking the veil off." Then once he goes through all his different incidents, he says he's questioning, well, is he really putting the veil back on? And you kind of get that too with HBCUs because you go through different incidents and you say, okay, what are they really doing? And you hear about or you go through the financial aid, and I know even sometimes on my campus, sometimes I don't even like to go there. Because sometimes you can't. It's hard to get on campus. If the guy at the gate is having a good day, and he may ask you for your license or whatever, but he may just piss you off, and you might say, "Well, I'm not coming here today." But everybody who's gone to HBCU has that experience too. So it's kind of a necessarily a love-hate, but I think a great part of it is we as alumni, I don't think we as diligent. I always say, I got a friend with the Tuskegee. I always say that they drink the Kool-Aid there. That the alumni are probably one of the best supportive alumni I've seen, really.
Yeah.
And, how they talk about their alma mater, and, you ask them about it, they say, oh, yeah, I'm going back to, next month or whatever, to do whatever. And then they have a little bit different, to me, experience to me. I don't know how real it is, but they seem to.
Yeah, I mean, I think even though we had a hard time, like it's like having a hard time at Joe, and we should improve it. I'm not saying I'm not having any nostalgia about it to say that like it shouldn't be improved. But I think the way we kind of think about it is just like we see it as a part of like Adolf's life, and so it was a part of like what we went through that was a part of Adolf's life, right? And like we would want to be a part of that and go back to that. Like most alumni of HBCU really feel like regardless of what happened, we went through, we were a part of something special, right? That's kind of how we feel. And I feel like, people who go back to that school as coaches or whatever, I understand it, but I understand even if you went to a different one or whatever, you may not feel that way, right? Because of you didn't go through there that way, right? So I kind of understand that, but I think you have to be kind of respectful of the school and of the journey and of the damage you as a coach, a multi-million-dollar player, the damage your voice could do. It's not like the kids who are complaining and we should pay attention to them. Like you said that billionaires, Ed Reed. Like if you're telling a billionaire that this school is trash, why would he want to give to the school anymore? You've just told him that it's trash. When really and truthfully, if you wanted to do that, you could, if you don't like that school, you can say, give it to another school. I have another school that's doing good work or whatever. Or just like, hey, I haven't been here long enough to know if it's trash. You haven't been there long enough, Ed Reed. And if you said, hey, they got problems, if you had research, you would have known that there were problems beforehand. But like do you want to make it better or not? You didn't even sign the contract to go there and say I tried to make it better and it still was a mess, right? You didn't do that. So I just I'm getting ready to get out of here, fam. But I agree with what you say. Like there's a sentiment there, and I go back to what the other caller said. You don't have anything without your institutions. You don't have a community. Right? So either you fix it. I feel the same way I feel about the church. I feel like there are a lot for the Christians who stay home, right? I'm not saying you don't have to be, you can be a Muslim, you can be an atheist, you can be a Buddhist, you can be whatever you want to be. But if you're a Christian and like you say, yeah, I'm a Christian, and you say, well, what church? And it's just like you've decided to you stop going to the church. I'm not saying that you got to, right? Like you don't have an online home either, right? So some of you might go online. I watch it. Like you don't have you identify as that, and you used to go to church, but you don't go to church no more because you don't like the pastor or whatever. But you never said like, hey, let's route this pastor out of here. This pastor's all about the dollar. Like I think we're trained to like get rid of our institutions and abandon them as opposed to, hey, the people who are in here doing damage, let's get rid of them, and let's support the people who need these institutions. Right, so like when the COVID was out and all that stuff, I remember Dr. Cosby and them at St. Stephen's, they were making little meals and stuff and taking them to elderly people. Like if your church doesn't do that, what's the vehicle for that? Right, and you may just not see it right now because you don't want to be a part of a community. But like you need community, and like I feel like we have all gotten to a place we don't feel like community has any value. But like it's supposed to be a support system, and nobody needs support more than us. And the fact that we don't understand or we don't value community over individual is a real problem. So I'll let you have the last word, family, and I'll get out of here.
Let me throw something out to you and then kind of be listening to some of the conversation. And here's what I believe when it comes to HBCUs. They're not really black institutions. If you look at how they govern, and here in Alabama, the governor is the one that pretty much, the governor controls who's on the board, and therefore who's on the board can control the president. Mm-hmm. So my take is we have to be
that's not everywhere. That's not everybody's not controlling that.
A black institution. I don't think it is.
Yeah, I think you would have to go to a state by state, right? Because every HBCU is not. I mean, some schools, some states have it funny, man. Where like they are. I mean, it's different state by state, but like I understand what you're saying. That also goes to though, like people say that political leadership doesn't matter. Well, if your political leadership is somehow appointing the president of your school, it absolutely matters. But I do agree with you. Like, if the leadership ain't is it really our institution if it's not led by us? Like, that's different from like a lot of other schools. That's different from like a Simmons College where Dr. Cosby leads how he wants to lead. So I think it's different, state school by school. But I would, yeah, I think exactly. So and I think that's the struggle.
And you hear all these stories about the president going and begging.
Yeah, for begging for money.
Hey, well, here's your money.
Well, and that's the reparations conversation, right? And that's why I don't want people to go spend it when the time comes for reparations. I don't want people to go spend it on Gucci bags. That's the seed, because when you're talking about $800,000, that's really not a lot of money. Like it's something that you can build from, but it's not like I don't want people to think, well, I got $800,000, I got no, you don't. Not in America, you don't. You have something that if you do it right, you can make sure that your kids won't have to be homeless but it's not a lot of money. And I think people, when you say who controls the money, then you have to go to look at who has the money, right? So like, we don't have a bunch of people who can at least write a $20,000 check, right? I knocked out a $20,000 check to my whatever. I hit them with a $5,000 check to the whatever. You don't have that. Like, that's basic. Right? And so I think that, like, when you talk about who has the money, we don't even have enough donors to say, listen, we don't like the way this is handling with this governor or whatever. We're gonna get some stuff. You don't even have that. Like, and so I agree with you. Like, you have to look at leadership, and you have to look at who chooses leadership. So I'm gonna let you go, fam. I appreciate you though. I appreciate you calling in. It was absolutely great call. And I think that, like, you have to fight for your institutions. That's what I believe. And I don't think there's another way around it. I just don't think abandoning your institutions work, right? I think our institutions are infiltrated with all kinds of stuff. I've criticized my institution for all the people they bringing on. Like, you're bringing on a bunch of stuff and a bunch of people. That's it for our calls for tonight, fam. I appreciate you if you called in, but we're not gonna get to the rest of the night. We had 2 hours and 30 minutes, so we're gonna let it ride tonight. Thank you, fam, if you called in. I see some people in the queue. But yeah, I just think that, like, you have to fight for stuff that matters to you, right? You can't fight for Deion's job. You can't, his job can't matter more to you than the things that should matter more to you. You have to fight for the things that matter to you, and you can't just say that these schools are bad. Some of them are, and to the extent some of them are bad because we're bad. Some of them are bad because we're bad at management. Some of them are bad because we don't get enough money. Some of them are bad because we don't do enough advocacy. Some of them are bad because we don't have enough people going to school because our communities have problems, right? There's a lot going on here. And our schools are manifestations of our oppression over the years. They reflect who we are as a community. And we should look at them as a mirror. But you know what I say all the time? Ugly people don't like mirrors. Ugly people do not like mirrors. I'm sorry. But that's just what it is. So, fam, I'm going to end it right here. I want to thank all y'all for spending so much of your time today. I appreciate y'all. Sure do finish your libation and go to bed, because we are about at midnight. So it's time to get your sleep on. So I will see y'all next time, fam. Patreon, I'll see you tomorrow. Everybody else, I will see you next Wednesday. Don't forget to hit the like button, or a week from today, of course. Don't forget the like button and subscribe if you have not subscribed. And hit the notification bell if you weren't getting notifications, or if you didn't get notifications, hit that bell for me, and I'd appreciate it. Good night, everybody.